going, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maddison Hill, and yes, it's time for another Pop Off with Maddison. For today's Pop Off, I'm going to be talking about part 1 of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Netflix documentary. You guys said that you wanted more royal family updates, and I am so happy to oblige. You know, I always say your wish for content is my command. So I'm going to be breaking down the biggest takeaways from these first 3 episodes, aka the first part of this Netflix documentary. Now, me personally, I did not know it was going to be 3 different episodes. I thought it was just gonna be like one chunk and another chunk. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys, there is a lot of information that is talked about in these 3 episodes, but what I'm going to do is I'm gonna do my best to take 1 or 2 big things from each episode and fill you in on them, fill you in on the biggest takeaways, because you guys know I'm always looking to save you time. So if you're interested in Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, I highly recommend that even after watching this video, you go and watch this first part, all 3 episodes in their entirety, because it is incredibly interesting. But if you're someone who doesn't like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, but yet you want to know what they're talking about in this documentary or some of the biggest things that they discuss in this documentary, well then that's perfect. You can just watch this video and then you don't even have to give them the stream. So without further ado, because like I said, there is a lot to get into here, a lot to break down, so please buckle up. I'm going to do my best to keep it condensed, but this is going to be a long pop off, so get some snacks, get a beverage, get whatever you need, and let's go ahead and get to unwrapping these Prince Harry and Meghan Markle facts. Okay, so as you all know, the first part of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's highly anticipated Netflix documentary came out today. Like I already mentioned, it's broken down into 3 episodes. We're obviously gonna go ahead and start off with the first episode, and I would say overall this first episode is really setting the tone for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's love story and giving us some insight into their relationship. For example, I think one of the biggest takeaways here is how they met. Me personally, and I feel like a lot of people just know that they were set up through a mutual friend, but actually how they met was through Instagram. So Prince Harry saw a video of Meghan Markle on one of their mutual friends' Instagram. He messaged the friend and was like, "Who is this girl?" She said, "You know, this is Meghan Markle. She's an actress. She's another one of my friends." Harry wanted to meet Meghan, and even though Meghan was in the midst of this single girl summer, she was on hiatus from Suits, she was living her best life traveling with some of her friends, this mutual friend reached out to her and said, "Hey, I have someone who wants to meet you." Haz was the nickname that they called him, and Meghan Markle decided, okay, I'll give it a chance, I'll go on a date. They ended up meeting, and Prince Harry was actually 30 minutes late to their first date, which initially was a huge turnoff to Meghan. She was like, "Oh no, this guy has an ego, I don't think he can do it." But then she realized that he was so flustered, he was so genuine, and essentially they hit it off right away. Meghan did end up making an effort to see him one more time before she left the UK, but essentially after those first 2 in-person meetings, they both knew this was something that they wanted to see where it went. They said that they talked and FaceTimed and texted for several months before Prince Harry went ahead and invited Meghan to Botswana. Now, in this first episode, we learn about how important Botswana is to Prince Harry. He's done a ton of charity work there. He talked about how he has a lot of people there who really were his family. They helped raise him. They helped him be the man that he is today. So Botswana in general, the people and the place, is very important to Prince Harry. So it was a really big deal that even though they had only met twice in person and they had been talking for a couple months, that he invited Meghan to go to Botswana. So in total, they spent about 5 days together in Botswana, and they really became close. They were living in a tent, they were staying together, they had no cell phone service, and this is really when they bonded, and also when Harry made a comment that he would always do his best to protect Meghan, and as we all know, he has kept that promise to her even still today. In addition to that, in this first episode, Prince Harry also reflects a lot about the loss of his mother, Princess Diana. Again, these are my biggest takeaways, but for me, one of the biggest things he said, and I actually became emotional. I cry really easily in documentaries and TV shows, not so much in real life, but when I'm watching things, I cry really easily. But it made me emotional when he talked about after his mother died, you know, him and William were expected to wear 2 different hats. One hat, they were allowed to be the grieving son. They were allowed to cry. They were allowed to be emotional. But the other hat was, you're part of the royal family. You need to get out there. You need to be smiling. You need to be shaking hands. And he talked about how difficult that was for him when he lost his mom. Harry also talked a lot about how the press was really prevalent in his childhood. That's one of his main memories when growing up, is the fact that the press was constantly around. He said that his mom always did her best to, you know, protect them, but obviously at the end of the day, they are the royal family and the UK press wants to cover them nonstop. Harry also addressed Princess Diana's BBC interview in this first episode. He said that while yes, we all know that she was deceived into doing it, she still spoke the truth about her experience. So I have to say, I do appreciate the fact that he is standing by his mother and her doing that interview. You can definitely tell he's seeing some parallels between that interview and what he's doing now in this Netflix documentary. In addition to to that, I would say the other big takeaway from this first episode is when Prince Harry said, quote, "For so many people in the family, especially obviously the men, there can be a temptation or an urge to marry someone who fits the mold, as opposed to someone who perhaps you may be destined to be with. The difference between making decisions with your head or your heart. And my mom made most, if not all of her decisions from the heart, and I am my mother's son." I don't know why that makes me emotional, but it did, and I even got teary-eyed when he said this in the documentary, because although he didn't name names, people are obviously thinking, okay, he's talking about William and Kate here, or honestly even his mom and Charles. I personally think it could go both ways, but a lot of people here are saying, oh, that was him making a dig at William and Kate. And I do want to say, while I like William and Kate, and I do think that they have love for each other, I think that they have a very different relationship from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. You know, William and Kate, they take their duty very seriously, which isn't a bad thing. They're also British, which just kind of notoriously, there's this stereotype that British people are not nearly as affectionate as Americans tend to be. This is actually going to be brought up later. I don't know if anyone has ever seen the movie What a Girl Wants with Amanda Bynes, but the grandma in that movie, who is of royal family descent, she says, "Honey, I'm British. I only show affection towards dogs and horses." So that is definitely a stereotype for sure. And I think William and Kate fit that stereotype. We never see them really affectionate with one another in public, like we've seen Harry and Meghan hold hands or give glances. We don't really see that from William and Kate. This is gonna sound bad, but I feel like William and Kate's relationship is a little more transactional than this once in a lifetime true love. Again, that's no shade at all. I like William and Kate. I'm just saying their relationship is very clearly different from Harry and Meghan, and I think that's what Harry was really getting at with that quote, as opposed to making a dig at his older brother. Sorry, you guys know I have a problem with over talking. I feel like I'm already talking too much, but let's move on to episode 2. In episode 2, we get to meet Meghan's mom. You know, she's also a product of divorce. She was raised in Los Angeles, and I think the one big thing from this second episode that people are really grasping onto and headlines are really grasping onto is the fact that Meghan Markle talked about how she was never treated like a black woman until her experience with the press in the UK. Her direct quote was, "It was very different to be a minority but not be treated as a minority right off the bat. I'd say now people are very aware of my race because they made it such an issue when I went to the UK. But before that, most people didn't treat me like a black woman. So that talk didn't happen for me. At the time, I wasn't thinking about how race played a part in any of this. I genuinely didn't think about it." In addition to that, another big takeaway that's discussed during the second episode is Meghan's introduction to Harry's family. She actually met Queen Elizabeth first, which, like, talk about pressure. And she recalled how when they were on their way to go meet Queen Elizabeth, Harry was asking her, you know, "Do you know how to curtsy?" And she thought he was kidding. She was like, "No, this is such a foreign concept to me that, you know, you bow to your grandmother." But then she quickly realized he was serious, and, you know, she obviously got it together. The first meeting with Queen Elizabeth went well. And then Meghan also opened up about the first time she met William and Kate. So the first time she met William and Kate, they actually came over to Harry and Meghan's place for dinner. Very normal. And Meghan reflected on how she was so casual. You know, she was wearing ripped jeans. She was barefoot. When they came in, she gave them a hug because, you know, she said she's a hugger, which I can definitely relate to. I feel like I hug everyone. And if you've met me in person before, you know that I am definitely going to go for a hug over a handshake. So I relate to her on that part. But she said that her hugging was very jarring to a lot of Brits. Then she went on to say, quote, "I guess I started to understand very quickly that the formality on the outside carried through on the inside, that there is a forward-facing way of being. And then you close the door and you go, oh, all right, okay, I can relax now. But that formality carries over on both sides, and that was surprising to me." Overall, in the second episode, Meghan and Harry both agreed that the biggest issue the royal family had with Meghan was the fact that she was an actress. About this, Harry said, quote, "But the fact I was dating an American actress was probably what clouded their judgment more than anything else at the beginning. He said their attitude is very much, quote, oh, she's an American actress. This won't last." Meghan definitely agreed with Harry here, and she said, quote, "The actress thing was the biggest problem. Funny enough. There's a big idea of what that looks like from the UK standpoint, Hollywood, and it's just very easy for them to typecast that." In this second episode, another big takeaway is that Harry and Meghan also talked about their engagement. Harry talked about how he actually had to get permission from the Queen before he could propose, and he had to do it in the UK. He could not do it anywhere else. Now, we already know this. He proposed when they were cooking dinner. He had a bottle of champagne. Meghan Markle said she kind of knew it was coming, but still, obviously, she was very excited, and the two also shared that they had a secret engagement party with their closest friends. They all wore onesies. Harry and Meghan wore penguin onesies because they're mating for life. But, you know, it was just a really special moment before they had to go do that very public TV engagement interview, which she said felt like staged reality television. Okay, that now brings us to episode 3. I'm trying to push through. I know this is long. So in this third episode, I feel like this is when we really really get into a lot of the post-proposal and pre-wedding drama that these two experience. For example, all of the stuff with Meghan Markle's family. If you remember, she had a half-sister, Samantha, who was in the press constantly spreading stories about Meghan Markle ever since her engagement with Prince Harry went public, which Meghan clarified that it was so odd to her that Samantha was out there speaking to the press because she did not have a relationship with Samantha. She said growing up, she never even remembers Samantha being in her father's home, which again, her parents were divorced, so she wasn't living with her father full time. But still, Meghan made it clear that her and Samantha never had a relationship. She wanted one because she wanted a sister, but they never had a relationship. So it was very jarring to her to see her half-sister come out and make up all of these stories. Now, although Meghan did not have a relationship with her half-sister, she did have a relationship with her half-sister's daughter, aka her niece. Now, the niece actually does appear in this documentary. She is interviewed. She talks about her close relationship with Meghan. She also talked about how her mom is not happy that she's so close with Meghan. And I know Piers Morgan has been really going off about this on Twitter, but Meghan also opened up about the decision to uninvite her niece to the wedding. This was really heartbreaking for her. So essentially, she explained her and Harry shared a small comms team with William and Kate. And this small comms team, she said, you know what, I do empathize with them because they were being inundated with a lot of stories. Because again, Meghan's family was out there chirping like they've never chirped before. So this comms team was dealing with a lot, and Meghan definitely understands that. But she says at the time, they were advised to not invite the niece to the wedding because the comms team said, you know, optics-wise, it looks bad that you are inviting your half-sister's niece to the wedding, but you're not inviting the half-sister and you're claiming you don't have a relationship with your half-sister. So the optics aren't lining up. Therefore, we think you should not invite the niece to the wedding. So Harry and Meghan listened to the advice of this small comms team. She explained everything to her niece, and her niece said, you know what, she understood. She was obviously still hurt that she was uninvited, but she understood that they had to make that really difficult decision. In addition to that, you guys, another big takeaway from this third episode is when Meghan talked about her dad and how he really was talking a lot to the press. She said this was really hard for her because prior to all of this, she described herself as a daddy's girl growing up. However, if you guys remember, Meghan's dad was selling photos to the paparazzi. He was selling stories, and he was talking to TMZ, and Meghan says he was talking to TMZ more than he was communicating with me. And then she found out that he was in the hospital from TMZ. He allegedly had a heart attack. So when she found out that he was in the hospital, she was trying to communicate with him, trying to text him, and she said that that's when she received a text message back that did not sound like her dad at all. For example, she said in the text message, he called her Megan, which was not normal. She said everyone in her family calls her Meg. So at that point, that's when she believed her father's phone was, quote, compromised. She said she responded to this odd text message saying, pick up the phone. I know this isn't you. I want to talk to you. And no one ever picked up the phone, so they never spoke. And you know, Harry commented on Meghan's relationship with her father basically being non-existent at this point because of everything that happened before the wedding and because of their relationship. And Harry said, quote, of course it's incredibly sad what happened. She had a father before this, and now she doesn't have a father. And I shouldered that because if Meg wasn't with me, then her dad would still be her dad. I would say another big takeaway that was discussed in episode 3 is the discussion of Princess Michael of Kent's Blackmore brooch scandal. So this happened during Christmas of 2017, which was a big deal because this was the first Christmas that Meghan Markle was also spending with Harry's family. So the Princess of Kent shows up to Christmas wearing this brooch, which if you see a picture of it, why she would pick that brooch to wear? Beyond me. But she did, and Harry addressed this brooch situation saying, quote, in this family, sometimes you're part of the problem rather than part of the solution. There is a huge level of unconscious bias. The thing with unconscious bias is it's actually no one's fault, but once it's been pointed out or identified within yourself, you then need to make it right. It's education, it's awareness, and it's a constant work in progress for everybody, including me. So I have to say, I just really commend what he said here. Again, like I said in my previous pop-off about Harry and Meghan, obviously the royal family has flaws, no one is denying that, and if you don't illuminate those flaws, change can never happen, and I feel like Harry just illuminated a flaw in the most respectful way possible, and hopefully that will bring about some change. Also, you guys, Harry did go ahead and bring up his scandal from 2005. If you don't remember this, Harry was seen at a Halloween party wearing a Nazi uniform. Super bad. Again, this was in 2005. And he talked about how this was one of the, quote, biggest mistakes of his life. He said that he was, quote, so ashamed afterwards. And he went on to say, quote, all I wanted to do was make it right. We sat down and spoke to the chief rabbi in London, which had a profound impact on me. I went to Berlin and spoke to a Holocaust survivor. I could have just ignored it and probably made the same mistakes in my life over and over again, but I learned from that. And that, people, is someone who talks the talk and walks the walk, and you know that is something I will always applaud. Okay, the last big takeaway I want to mention here, because there's a really good quote quote that Meghan said, but she joked how, you know, in Princess Diaries, there's a class that teaches you royal protocol. Well, there's nothing like that in real life. So she was learning things about royal protocol on the fly. You know, if they were doing a public appearance together, for example, she could not be wearing the same color as the queen, and she also could not wear the same color as somebody who was higher in the family than her. She also talked about how she was like having to learn the national anthem on the fly. She was just saying, you know, no one taught me this royal protocol. I was having to learn on the go, and Harry was doing the best he could, but, you know, protocol is different for men and women. Harry also brought up how, you know, the British press was also inventing protocol along the way as just another way to, you know, basically drag Meghan. And Meghan had a really good quote here. She said it was, quote, baptism by fire. Whew. Okay, friends, I know that was a lot of information. Thank you for sticking with me. I promise I will do my best to keep my opinion short and sweet because I know your time is precious. So let's go ahead and make this pop off official and get to the shit box. Okay, so I have to say this documentary, at least thus far, of course the second part airs next week, so I could have a different opinion, but I will say so far this documentary is not at all what I expected. You know, truly based on all the reports we are hearing about the royal family being nervous and William being ready to combat anything Harry says, I really thought that Harry was going to go in on the royal family. And he's not doing that at all. I mean, sure, I guess some people are seeing some digs, like that dig about, you know, marrying women who you think will fit the mold, or talking about, you know, unconscious bias and not doing anything to change it. I guess those could be looked upon as a few digs towards the royal family, but overall, I would say Harry and Meghan's main issue is with the press in the UK. And in addition to that, I feel like this documentary is really just Harry and Meghan wanting people to get to know who they are. And they just want people to know a little bit more about their experiences and what they've been through. Truthfully, I don't see any reason for the royal family to be upset with this documentary. I mean, truly, I really feel like he hasn't said anything bad in this documentary. I really don't feel like the royal family or the UK press should be as upset as the outrage that I'm seeing on social media. Like I said, I think the worst things he said was, you know, that comment about the marriage, the thing about unconscious bias, and then there was also a comment, and this wasn't even from Harry, this was from other experts, talking about how, you know, the royal family needs positive press to survive. You know, the modern generation kind of struggles to see the importance of the monarchy. So these experts were saying in order for the monarchy to survive, it has to modernize and it has to maintain public popularity. One way they maintain public popularity is through positive press, which is why the royal family is obsessed with getting positive press. So I guess they could be a little upset about that, but I feel like that's kind of common knowledge. Like, we all know that. And even one of the royal experts talked about how, you know, the royal family has like a 60 to 80% popularity rate, which is a number that politicians here would absolutely kill for. So truthfully, I feel like other than a few sly comments, the royal family really should not be quaking over this documentary. And you know what? I think it's funny because if you watch my first pop-off about Harry and Meghan's Oprah interview, you guys know I'm always honest with you. I always tell you the truth. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna say it again. When Harry and Meghan first got together, I was not a fan of them. I was not a huge fan of Meghan. I thought her family was wild. I was like so appalled that they were talking so much in the press, which now, obviously seeing this documentary, I feel like a huge douchebag because I'm like, oh my God, this poor girl had literally no control over these people. But I'm just saying, I was definitely someone who did not think this relationship was gonna last, and I was someone who was not a fan of them together. However, then I watched the Oprah interview and I was like, holy moly, I have so much respect for these two people. They have been put through so much. Meghan has been put through so much. I definitely saw parallels between how she was treated and Diana was treated. And I was like, wow, I'm so wrong about these people. I have so much respect for them. And now I have to say, even after watching this first part of their Netflix documentary, now I am like a fan of these two. I truly, really like them. And I know it's so easy to hate them. And I know there are gonna be people in the comments being like, they're fake, Meghan's an actress, they're doing this for money. But also I wanna point out, if someone came to you and said, I'll write you a check for telling your story, don't act like you wouldn't do the same thing too. And ultimately, you guys, I really think that Harry and Meghan have a once in a lifetime love. I do. I really think that they were destined to be together. You guys know I'm a hopeless romantic, so you might want to make fun of me and say I'm cheesy, whatever, but I really do think that they were meant to be together. You know, really at the end of the day, I feel like Harry and Meghan are two very normal people with just super abnormal circumstances. And truthfully, I think if the royal family and the UK press is pissed about this first part of the documentary, I guess all I can say is just be real. Be real with yourself. Honestly, they did not come for the royal family at all like like any of us expected. Of course, there can still be a part 2. UK press, you can be upset because they're coming for your necks, as they should. The way the UK press operates, we think it's bad over here in the US. Let me tell you, the UK does it times a million. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, these are just two people who are trying to share their experience and tell their story, and just let them live. All right, you guys, that's all I have for you on this pop-off about the first part of Harry and Meghan's documentary. If there were other takeaways that you thought were important that you want to mention in the comments, or you just want to let me know what you think about all of this, just go ahead and go off, share your thoughts, feelings, theories, everything down there in the comments. While you guys are at it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button, and don't forget that notification bell. For more content, make sure you guys follow me over on Instagram and TikTok, and of course, don't forget to keep coming back to my channel to check out my YouTube shorts. If you guys want to show me a little extra love, or you just want to make sure I see your comment, you can also hit that super thanks button down below, and you can also check out all of my merch over at my merch store at houseofhill.com. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!